Hello there, and welcome to the Palm and Pine podcast. The boys are coming to you from their hidden camp, set deep in the Florida woods on the banks of the mystic Swanee River. So let's take a moment and hear from the boys of old Florida.
Okay, folks, welcome to the Palm and Pine podcast. We're glad to be back with all of y'all today, and hopefully we won't lock up. We're on a Zoom call today, and we've got a great guest today. Very excited to have this guest on today, and going to learn a lot about the particular art that he puts forward, and does a lot of it right here in Florida. And has already taken some very unique shots, and you'll be able to see those on his gallery. We will link to all of that too on the bottom of the page, and we're going to discuss some of that today. But hey, Professor Barlow, I'm going to kick it right over to you if you would like to introduce this gentleman today, and we get right into it.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Steve, I tell you, I could not sleep last night thinking about this guest that we have today, an exciting young photographer, Jeremy McGuire. And Jeremy's originally from Georgia, living in Gainesville now. He studied art at Valdosta State University. And we learned about him because he appeared on the What You Doing Willis YouTube channel with our good friend Travis Willis. And then now that I've been looking at his photography, it's very exciting. So we're going to talk to him about all of his work today, and this should be a lot of fun. So welcome to the podcast, Jeremy McGuire.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Let's just start with, what made you want to get into photography? Because you're obviously pretty serious about it. What were your motivations?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I definitely say I am pretty serious about it. When I was a kid, anytime there was like an art thing for school, they'd be like, make whatever you want, a painting or whatever. I would always grab a disposable camera because, growing up, that's, you only had film, of course. Obviously, digital is the main thing now. But I put it down for a long time. But it wasn't until about 10 years ago, maybe or so, when an ex-partner of mine was a professional photographer, and she had a spare camera, and I was like, hey, let me just borrow that. Let me see what's going on. And I ended up taking it. I'm a big music fan, and so I play in bands, but I also attend a lot of concerts here in town. And so I was just taking it to these concerts and taking photos of my friends or bands that were traveling through, and I fell in love just immediately. Just couldn't stop doing it. It became weird when I didn't have a camera with me, and then for the past decade, that's what I've been doing. And it was about, I would say, maybe 2 years ago. I was getting a little burnt out just from the amount of photography I was doing digitally, and I wanted to do something a little different. And so I started to get back into film. And so that's mainly what I do now. I mean, I do a lot of digital work. Basically, if I'm doing something professionally, like if I'm being paid by a client, it's probably digital. But if it's for me, it's going to be film. And so that just reinvigorated everything. And now I just can't, I'm going to go out for a drive in the morning, and I'm going to go drive around and just look for stuff and take photos. I love it. So,
well, that leads me to my next question. You use a lot of old cameras, and you use film, and I didn't know people still use film. What is it about film that's special?
Well, I mean, the short and simple answer is, with digital cameras, you got a phone in your pocket that can take a better photo than anything of the last 20 years, right? So you have, and so I take photos on my phone all the time, but I wanted something that gave it a little bit more character, and film has a lot of really interesting characteristics that you just can't get digitally, or I guess you can fake it, but it's I wanted it to be real. And the other main thing is it forces me to slow down. You have a camera, 36 photos at most, but if I have my digital, I could take thousands. So it's it forces me to really slow down, look at what I'm taking a photo of, say, is this worth it? And if it is, then I take the picture, and so I just love it so much. Not to mention just of vinyl records as opposed to digital streaming. Because again, holding the record in your hand, looking at the art, feeling the connection to the art is so different when you can hold it as opposed to just being on a screen.
Right. Well, now you were saying you started with portrait photography, but I think the exciting thing about your work is your object photography, your
thank you.
still work. It's just so fascinating. And you select these older objects, buildings, automobiles, cars, whatever, and it tells this story about time that's kind of neat. There's not a human subject in it, but there must be a story about humans that the viewer has to think through. And I think it's so intriguing. How did you get down that path? And, what motivated you to, makes you choose these still objects you choose to photograph?
I mean, so, I live in Gainesville, and while Gainesville itself is pretty, it's a pretty big town. There's a lot of, construction and stuff going on, old buildings getting torn down all the time. And it made me just realize, I was like, well, the history of these old buildings and the history of the area around is constantly getting erased here. I mean, I love Gainesville, but I think that there's a little too much stuff happening here. And so I decided to start going out, and I started going around and going to all the smaller towns. And that started with Alachua and Newberry and Williston, the kind of bigger, smaller towns. And then as I would get there, I wouldn't have a plan, and I would just go and just look and just walk around, drive around, go in the neighborhoods, maybe aim for the post office because there's probably stuff around there, and look and just see what I felt captured my attention. And then that would ultimately lead to these stories being told that were not being told in a lot of other ways. Like you were saying, if there's a human in my photo, it's probably an accident. I mean, I don't mind it, but
somebody that shows up at Otter Creek to take a picture of an old building, that is a peculiar and thoughtful person. That is intriguing.
Yeah. So Otter Creek is a perfect example, and we could talk about how I met Travis in a little bit, but Otter Creek. So I live in Gainesville. I like to go to Cedar Key a lot, and it's right on there, on the way. And I always just, you pass through, and it's, when you're on the highway, it's just the corner store. It's like a bait store and the post office, and that's it. And I was like, there has to be more to this town. And so I just went off the highway and ended up stumbling upon this old general store. And I was like, wow, this is really cool. And then over here, I'm like, oh, here's an abandoned building. What's that? And oh, here's an abandoned building. What's that? And I just and that's how I met Travis. But basically I was walking up to some abandoned house, and you can see it in the video that you guys found me in. And he said, I have to go off of what he's saying, of course, that it was at one point, maybe a depot of some sort, but then it eventually became someone's house, and it's now currently owned by the mayor of Otter Creek. And he was like, hey man, saw you taking photos. Do you want to go inside? And I was like, absolutely. Because inside these buildings is especially that one, it was just, it's someone's life, it's just there. And it's just, they're not there anymore. The story is kind of left open. The book is left open, and I can go in and document it and take those and show it to people who've never even heard of Otter Creek. You know what I mean? Who maybe never will ever go near it,
So yeah. I tell you, that comes to mind, Jeremy. I've spent my entire career in the outdoors, and a lot of obscure places. And a lot of the stories we cover here on the Palm and Pine podcast, a lot of it, we talk a lot about Florida Man, okay, and things that are happening in Florida. And you being a photographer, and I'm sure you do portraits of people. I saw that on your website, and pets and different things like that. And maybe you would even do a artistic portrait of a nude.
Sure.
But we come across a lot of stories of people naked, as in naked as a jaybird. You ever just run across anything like that when you're out there?
I mean, no one, thank God, no one just nude as the day they were born, but I have met quite a number of very interesting people in various stages of undressed. A lot of people just like to exist, in shorts and no shirt, and they're just walking around. They come to me like, hey, what you doing over here? And I'm just like, I'm just taking photos. I promise I'm not causing any trouble. Please. I did have a gentleman recently. I don't even know where I was. It was some town north of Gainesville called Traxler. and it doesn't exist anymore. It used to exist on off an old highway that doesn't exist anymore. And I was there. There's this old church that's just completely covered by like plant life. And I was on the road taking pictures, and I see this gentleman drive up because it's kind of the only thing around for a while. He gets out of his car and he's immediately angry and mad. And I was like, oh man, he's like, this is my property, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, hey, dude, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm not on the property. I'm not trespassing. I'm literally on the side of the road. I was like, please. And thank God this other car drove up and he saw this person yelling at me, and he was like, hey, what's going on? I was like, I'm just happy that nothing like escalated. But that man was very mad. I was taking pictures of his abandoned building, I guess. I don't know.
He was a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
You have a wonderful website, McGuirephotography.com.
Yes,
and
sir.
if I may, in the section, you have a group of film shots up there, and they're so fabulous because if you're from Florida, North Central Florida, you can probably guess where these shots were taken. Can I go through a list of about 5 of them, and you tell me about the photograph?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how you did it. It looks like to me you took a photo of the Krispy Kreme on 13th Street near University of Gainesville, Florida. Tell us about
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I drive by that sign, I don't know, twice a day, at least every day. And, you know, it's got this big, beautiful neon sign. And especially at night, sometimes the neon is like off in certain ways, so it just says like nuts instead of donuts or whatever, something silly. And it just drew my attention one time at night, and I bought a very special film that takes photos at nighttime really well, and I set up and took that photo, and Krispy Kreme is delicious. We all know this. So
especially at 2 in the morning.
Especially at 2 in the morning. They saw me taking photos and they were like, do you want a donut? And I was like, yes, absolutely. Thank you. I love that photo. I love like neon signs and old stuff like that. I'll go to like motels and stuff like down in Ocala, especially. There's tons of old, like, 50s motels that have all those cool neon signs and stuff like that. I love taking those photos.
Okay, next, I think you took a fabulous photo looking down into Devil's Mill Hopper.
Yes. Okay. So again, Devil's Mill Hopper, Gainesville. Love that place. It's beautiful. It's serene. It's unlike a lot of places in Florida. You know, it's got waterfalls and it's cold in there. You know, it really does feel very different. And I typically go there probably at least twice a month just to like relax, just enjoy myself. And you always get these really interesting angles coming from the top because it's got all the stairs going all the way down, and people are constantly like going up and down doing their exercises or whatever like that. But I just love Devil's Mill Hopper. It's just so peaceful, and it always, to me, it just tells the story of just like humans and nature involvement. And it's like the nature has been here long before us and probably be here long after us, but like here's our little impact that you see, you know, stuff like that.
Right. Now, one I think is maybe, I'm guessing Manatee Springs.
Okay. I'm trying to. I just updated my website. So I'm trying to remember. Is there anything else in the photo?
It's like it's an interesting perspective of Manatee Springs. We were kind of guessing. I was talking about it. So, well, let's go on to one I know you will remember.
Okay.
You took a picture, I'm thinking, of the Big Peanut near Ashburn, Georgia on I-70.
Yeah, that's crazy to recognize that. So again, I'm from South Georgia, and I go up all the time. I'm from, I have family all over. And so I was driving up to see some family, and I was like, you know what? I've never stopped in Ashburn. I've never taken a photo of this peanut. It is the world's largest peanut. I found out a bunch of stuff about it. It's the world's largest peanut. It at one point was made of like fiberglass, but it blew down in one of those big storms a couple years back. And so they replaced it with a big metal one. So it's actually a different peanut. But people, there was a couple there when I was taking that photo, and they were literally like, you're taking, because there's an RV campground like right next to it. And so they were just like, why are you taking a photo of this peanut? I'm like, look at it. Why wouldn't you?
But it's such a fantastic photo. And the way it has the cloud hanging there.
Thank you. Yeah.
It says something about time. And it's a fascinating photo.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it really is. Now there's one there I don't think either Steve and I could figure it out, but it's of a lighthouse. Would you tell us about that one?
Okay, absolutely. So is it the one that's kind of in the like black framing looking? I think that's the
Right.
one it is.
Like looking through a window at a
Yeah.
lighthouse?
So that is actually St. Simon's Island in Georgia, and I lived there for a long time, and I was visiting my mom who still lives in that area, and I was staying at a motel on St. Simon's that overlooks the lighthouse, and I was literally just checking out or checking in or whatever, and I turn around and I see this framing of the lighthouse, and I was like, this is so beautiful, and this is like. I love if I'm going to nerd out about photography a little bit, I love a natural framing. It makes the photo can really pop, whether it's trees or whether it's like a building or something. So having the window naturally frame the lighthouse so beautifully. If you guys have never been to St. Simon's, I mean, I know this is a Florida podcast, but it's pretty close and it's really beautiful up there. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the Otter Creek photos, when and where and how will we be seeing those?
Well, so as y'all know, film takes time to develop, takes time to get ready and stuff like that. I work with a local lab here in Gainesville, and I typically give them batches of film at a time. I'll shoot like 10 rolls and then give it to them. So I just got it all back. So I'm going through it now. Literally, I was doing it before this podcast, and I'm going in and scanning it in. But I definitely will be posting some soon. And in fact, fingers crossed, if it turns out, I'm going to be in an art show in August, and I have these big panoramas that I took, and one of them of the Otter Creek, that building I was talking about earlier that Travis took me into, is going to be in that, because it's got this like stop sign in the foreground and the building in the back, and it's this really beautiful wide shot of Otter Creek, and I just love it so much. And so they'll be posted very soon, I promise.
Right.
So Jeremy, that brings up a question I wanted to make sure to ask you, and I think I saw this on you. You've got a great YouTube channel as well.
Oh yes, thank you.
ISO Obsessions or IS
yes.
Obsessions.
So there's a camera term called ISO, and I combined that with the word obsession. So that's
But make sure you get the S on the end.
Yeah, there is an S. ISO Obsessions.
You'll get something you don't want.
Yeah, you will find another channel if you don't put that S on the end.
Yeah,
but very clever. I like it. But I think I saw a video of you with like a portable small dark room where you could develop film in the field.
Yes.
How does that work?
So
Pinhole camera.
Yeah, so I love that y'all brought it up. That's one of my favorite cameras. It's called a Pinsta pinhole camera. And it's 3D printed, but it's basically like specialty molding plastic, and it's a light sealed box. And so you put photographic paper in there and you take the pinhole shot. Sometimes that takes an hour because it's a pinhole. And then I have all the chemicals with me, and you inject it into the side, and you can develop it right there. You open that box, and it's always like literally like opening a gift. It's magical every time, whether the photo's good or not. Sometimes it's terrible and I don't care. It's just like, it's a magical sense, because especially the long exposures, you get the trees blowing, and you get, maybe someone walks through the frame. It's just a little ghostly looking or something like that. That camera in particular is something that really ignited my passion into physical and film photography, because it's like, not only are you getting a film photo, you're getting the full print in your hand, like immediately, a 4x5 thing, and I frame them and put them on my wall at home. I love those things. Wow. And that camera is magical. I love it so much.
Wow.
Let me maybe suggest you do a walking tour of Cedar Key. Have you done that yet?
So, I go to Cedar Key all the time myself, just for, and I recently was there shooting with a friend, and all those, they had the big storms and the fires, and I went and kind of documented a bunch of what is that road, the Dock Street, the one that right there by the water, and there's that big building that caught last year, and I took a bunch of photos of that. And I sometimes I feel weird documenting places that are that destroyed, because I feel like maybe I'm taking advantage of the situation, and I would never want that. For me, it's just to show that I love this place and I support this place. It's like, I don't want to be like, I'm benefiting from your suffering, so,
right.
With an abandoned building, no, that's nothing. That's like, whatever. But like something like Cedar Key, I felt a little weird about it. So I was trying to give them a little bit more time before doing a video about Cedar Key, and then maybe like going back through and being like, look how much they built back, stuff like that. So, yeah.
Now, you want to get paid for your work. So where do people go to to buy your portraits? You mentioned a little bit about an art show before, but do you have like an eBay site where people buy your prints?
I'll tell you that I'm new into I'm mostly, like I said, I mostly was doing digital stuff before. And so, a lot of the money just comes from doing the shoot. But now that I'm doing film and I'm printing a lot more, I do a little pop-up in town where I'll have them like just in hand that I'm selling them. But like, you can always message me on Instagram, and I have a photo printer at home. I'll print it out and mail it to you, sign it and everything. I don't have like an official store, but my website or whatever, you can always get one. However, anytime I'm in an art show, you can always buy that. So like I said, I'm going to be in one in August, and so those will be available for sale as well.
And where will this show be in August?
So there's a place in downtown Gainesville. It's a fun name. It's called the Top Secret Event Space. It's literally on the corner of Main and University. It's like downtown Gainesville. It's the last Friday of August. They do an art walk every month in Gainesville, and that's what it'll be a part of that. So.
Oh, that'd be great. Maybe we could show up there. We're very familiar with the spot.
Absolutely. It's right next to the Woolly, right next to the Top. If that helps you at all, it's right there. And there's a ton of other art spaces and stuff. Anyways.
Yeah, very familiar with the spot. Well, that's great. And as we said, his website is jmcguirephotography.com. Please go check that out. And his YouTube site, IS Obsessions with the S, and you can get that there. And we're going to look forward to the Otter Creek prints coming out. And we just really appreciate you taking the time today to be on the podcast. We have a question that we ask of all the people we interview.
Okay.
Before we conclude, and that is, what is like if you? I know you're a young man, but if you had to go talk to your really young self, what is the one guiding principle that you would tell that younger person, and that you still go by today, that you use in life? That one most important guiding principle.
So, we've all, I'm sure that you guys have done this as well. Like, we've all been through our hardships. We've had struggles in life. I think that the most important thing that has helped me get through not just that stuff, but just live life to the fullest is truly the purpose of life is to be happy. And it's not to make others happy. If making others makes you happy, great. That's awesome. But like, it is not, I'm not doing anything for anyone else. I'm doing it for me. And so, when for example, I mentioned like I went to college for arts, but I ended up joining a band and touring the country, and I don't regret that at all. And I would tell my younger self, you're doing the right thing. You're on the right trail, because if I hadn't done that, I would not be where I am now. I would not have met my wife. I would not own my house. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't change anything that I've done. In fact, I would just bolster that idea. Do what you want that makes you happy, because being creatively fulfilled and being artistically fulfilled is something that not many people get to experience, and I get to experience it every day, and it's amazing. So
That's awesome. That's awesome, Jeremy. And I tell you, Douglas and I are getting a little taste of it. We're starting maybe for the first time, one of the first times, at least in my life, and we're doing it through a podcast of being our authentic selves, our true selves, and
yes, sir.
Looking at what we love every day and every episode that we can do it. So that's great stuff. We appreciate what you're doing. We appreciate your work, and we're going to keep following you. We'll put all the links to your pages and your platforms on the podcast too for folks to check out. And hey, we hope to get you in the field with us someday, and maybe
love to
up with you.
Would love to. I'll come out and take photos. Absolutely. Steve, Douglas, thank you so much for having me on. This has been a blast. So
yeah, so much to talk about. We'll have to have you back.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. We'll catch y'all next time. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode of the Palm and Pine podcast. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be considered professional advice. The views and opinions expressed by the host or any guest are our own and do not necessarily reflect the views of any affiliates. Our opinions are just that, opinions, and are not legal or medical advice. But in our opinion, avoid lawyers and big pharma at all cost. Copyright 2025, Palm and Pine Podcast. All rights reserved. Please subscribe and share. Okay, until next time, keep it Florida. and we'll see you soon.